In the middle of the Yuanying period, Han Li returned the general's mansion brought from the Bright Land, back to where it originally belonged. The history of Tianfa Gate is all here, in the attic of the sect, where the uniform classics are stored. He encountered an old acquaintance from the Yellow Wasps, but this senior diviner seemed unwilling to meet Han Li's gaze. This made Han Li feel a bit uneasy. Under the current scrutiny comparable to the late Yuanying, he couldn't discern the other's cultivation level at all. Watching the old man's disappearing figure, the smile on Han Li's face gradually faded, revealing a hint of seriousness. Perhaps there is another possibility. That is, the great I God began to hesitate while speaking. What possibility? Han Li couldn't help but ask. There is another possibility, that this person has advanced to the transformation stage, and all his spiritual power can be drawn from his internal meridians, scattered into his physical body. Even the Yuanying could temporarily become formless. Naturally, you wouldn't be able to detect anything. The great I God said slowly. Are you joking, senior? Even if Han Li was in an unusual position, he couldn't help but feel a bit taken aback. Even if Han Li is in an unusual position, upon hearing about the culture, they were taken aback. Although I have never advanced to the transformation stage, I have researched some things related to it. This ability is the most basic of the transformation stage. The great I God calmly said, I'm not saying that the transformation stage lacks such powers, but how could the transformation art still be lingering here? Isn't it said that once you advance to the transformation art, you gain the ability to ascend to the critical point? Han Li took a deep breath and finally calmed down. Although I traveled the world back then, I have never seen any transformation stage practitioners, but I can be certain that this generation indeed still has transformation stage practitioners lingering here. And it's not just one or two of them, having the ability to ascend to the critical point, and whether one can truly ascend are two different matters. I'm not too clear on the specifics, but it seems that after advancing to the transformation stage, these people can no longer appear frequently in front of others like ordinary practitioners. Otherwise, they would surely face calamities and such. The great I God also said with some confusion, Is there such a thing? Senior, you have never mentioned this to me before. Han Li paused and replied, You haven't even reached the later stages for the reasons. Senior, you've never mentioned this to me before. Han Li just stood there, huffing. You haven't even cultivated to the reason yet. What good would it do to tell you these things? You'll surely understand the specific reason once you advance to the transformation stage. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been the case throughout history. All the transformation stage cultivators have disappeared from the cultivation world as if it was agreed upon. The great I God said with annoyance. That's true. Although the possibility is slim. This person downstairs really has a certain chance. They might be a transformation stage cultivator. Han Li smiled wryly. There is indeed that possibility. Even if they aren't at the transformation stage. This person gives me a terrifying feeling. I think it's best if you don't provoke this person. Even you, senior, feel the danger from this person. I thought it was just my own illusion. That's why I suddenly changed my words earlier on the first floor. Since this person can suddenly appear in the south, and then show up in the Great Realm, always appearing as a low-level disciple, it seems they definitely have their own motives. Let's just pretend we don't know anything about this. Han Li thought for a moment and said, It can only be this way. But if there's a chance. Han Li thought for a moment and said, There's no other way. But if possible, it's better to leave Tianfa Gate as early as possible. What if this person really has some murderous intentions? You could be in serious danger. The big-eyed deity reminded me of that. Without thinking, I just said, ha. I naturally understand the stakes involved. However, if we rush to leave now, we might provoke the other party's hostility and end up making things worse. Let's stick to the original plan for now. We'll stay at Tianfa Gate for a few more days. I can't believe he can hide his identity here. Even if he is indeed a 7th level transformation, there must be some restrictions, as mentioned by the elder. Otherwise, why would he be so secretive about it? A 7th level transformation should be able to act openly. Why would he need to be so sneaky? Han Li calmly shook his head. You have a point. I didn't think this through. The big-eyed deity chuckled lightly, offering a rare compliment. However, during these days, the losses from using the blood shield have almost been compensated. My puppets should be starting to be refined now. Right. The big-eyed deity changed the topic, mentioning some wives and concubines. Well, since you didn't say anything, I was also planning to finish off those few Ajao, and then immediately start refining the puppets. After all, I need to get my hands on the scales of that fire pepper eater first. As for the Black Phoenix spell, there's no rush for that. I'll tackle that after the puppets are done. Han Li looked around, already having a plan in mind. Without hesitation, he said, "Ha ha, there are quite a few unique uniforms inside. This will do. I can see this puppet before the great county arrives. Finally, there are no regrets." Dalian laughed heartily upon hearing this. Hanli smiled slightly at these words. No more words were spoken, but with a flick of her sleeve, several formations shot out from her cuffs. One spiraled and then scattered in all directions. With a flash of light, all the formation flags vanished. A pale blue prohibition suddenly emerged, illuminating the entire floor. Although he felt in his heart that the other party wouldn't suddenly attack, to be cautious of their arrows, he first set up a protective barrier. After doing all this, Hanli took a few steps forward with ease. Casually, she picked up a jade pendant left on the wooden rack. She immersed the divine stone in it and began to examine it. Hanli stayed in the golden vault of Tianfigate for 3 days and 3 nights. In the Zhang Pavilion, she went through all the books related to uniforms on the 3rd floor. There were indeed quite a few unique uniforms inside. The secretary was quite unreserved. The secretary was quite straightforward about it. Therefore, I've copied all of this down. I'll take my time to study it properly when I have some free time later, especially from some of the texts inside. Hanli also learned about the special circumstances of the 2 major secret symbols of the talent sect. As a result, he was secretly astonished. The transformation symbol is a special technique that captures and stores a target within the body. It trains day and night in the Danshan. In the future, it will produce marvelous and limitless spiritual symbols. This technique is somewhat similar to a magical treasure. If cultivated to a certain level, it can not only change sharply and infinitely, but can even perform similar miraculous feats as the demonic path's dissolution technique. Moreover, it doesn't require the body to bear the backlash of the technique. The 16th Heavenly Blessing, a technique that utilizes the benefits of fortune and prosperity to gather the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth. It forms a 6-layer protective barrier. As long as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth doesn't cease, the 6-layer barrier can continuously regenerate. It's one of the few spells in the world that can manipulate the spiritual energy of heaven and earth without needing to transform into a magical artifact. It's quite notorious. Among the 3 major secret techniques, the birch forest technique is relatively better. As long as one advances to the single fire training stage, they will have the ability to train with single fire. Therefore, it is a necessary technique for all generations of the talent sect. However, the power of the Wallen technique varies. It's a necessary skill that every generation of Tianfigate must learn. However, the power of the Wallen talisman varies. But in reality, the only truly useful one is the Whaling Talisman. Besides, looking at the cultivation level modified by the assistant Lin Fu, and the duration of time, we also need to consider the materials used during Lin Fu's crafting, and the quality of the item itself. However, the 16 heavenly armor is different. As long as it can be refined, anyone can wield it. The effectiveness of the spiritual talisman is entirely determined by the spiritual energy of the world. The denser the spiritual energy in a place, the more astonishing the blessings and fortunes will be. But according to the records of a certain elder from the Tianfu sect, the 16 heavenly armor technique encountered mysteriously vanished right after the gifted master painted it. This left the powerful Tianfu sect at that time in shock. For several generations afterward, the higher-ups of the Tianfu sect regarded recovering this secret as a top priority. However, there were no clues at all. After the Tianfu sect fell into decline with no results, they naturally had even less ability to investigate further. This matter gradually became neglected. As for the descending armor, due to material issues, very few people have been able to refine it since its inception. So, while the Tianfu sect has always claimed to be one of the 3 major spiritual talismans, in reality, the only truly useful one is the Hua Ling Talisman. You can just make yourself comfortable here. I've been waiting for the senior for an entire day behind closed doors. After finishing the related texts, Hanli naturally became very interested in the 2 types of spirit talismans. It seems that both possess considerable supernatural powers, especially that transformation talisman. It can actually serve to resolve major magical effects. This is the best means of saving one's life at certain times. 3 days later, Hanli finished the last piece of jade sword. He stood up from the meditation cushion. He stretched lazily. The divine stone swept down to the floor below. It sensed something in the alley below. Hanli frowned. This had worried her for quite a while. Like her senior brother these past few days, Teacher Li had not done anything other than sit quietly and cultivate. He hadn't even stepped out of the attic once. Outside the attic, there was something quite amusing. Since the first day he started reviewing the texts, several gifted disciples from the machine sect had been taking turns waiting outside for him to come out. They looked as if they were afraid he would leave without saying goodbye. After thinking for a moment, Hanli walked down from the attic. "Senior, have you finished reading?" The old man, upon seeing Hanli appear, immediately put away the book in his hand. With a beaming smile, he said, "Yes, I've read everything I needed to. I guess I can relax here for a bit. The rest of the basic talismans can only be looked at passively." Hanli chuckled softly. He said with great significance. Then he walked out of the attic, lost in his own thoughts. The old man watched Hanli's figure leave without moving from his spot. After a fleeting glimmer in his eyes, he quickly returned to his usual demeanor. It's quite a coincidence that outside the attic waiting for Hanli was the young clan member who had brought him here. As soon as he saw Hanli come out, he hurriedly greeted him respectfully. He politely asked Hanli to visit the main hall once more. Since he had seen the other party's treasured books, it was only right to give him this courtesy. Hanli nodded and agreed. The middle-aged man happily sent out a sound transmission talisman, leading Hanli straight to the main hall. Waiting for Hanli in the main hall, besides a few familiar faces from the last meeting, there were also two unfamiliar cultivators in the acceptance period. One man and one woman, both appearing to be in their 40s. After the elderly man with the surname Wen and others greeted Hanli, this elder from the Heavenly Father sect immediately introduced them. These two are Dao friends from Jingsha Mountain and Mingyang Valley. Daoist Z. They heard that the senior was visiting and specially came to pay their respects. They have already been waiting for the senior in seclusion for an entire day. The vision is on the side. You two are quite thoughtful. I've been researching some uniforms lately. It's been a while since those two friends have been here. Hanli's expression was calm. It was hard to tell if he was happy or angry as he spoke. It's truly a pleasure to see the true face of a senior today. It enlightens us. After the two men and women scanned Hanli's cultivation level, they were immediately shocked and bowed in respect. To be honest, I was skeptical when I heard reports from the two sect leaders. They said a 7th grade cultivator from the talent sect had arrived. Both of them were half convinced. After all, how could they not know about the talent sect situation? Although the three sects belong to smaller factions, they have always supported each other. The talent sect is also the weakest among the three. How could a 7th grade cultivator come to such a small sect? However, if they could really establish a connection with a 7th grade cultivator, the benefits would be obvious. These two couldn't stay in their sect any longer, and rushed to Baiju Mountain overnight to confirm this matter in person. Now that they have witnessed Hanli's unfathomable cultivation level, they naturally have no doubts left. After Hanli sat down, he made a slight gesture. Only then did the three cultivators and Yuezhen dare to sit down as well. The remaining foundation-level cultivators could only stand by and watch from the side. The inner color remains unchanged. They are not elders from any major sect. Did you find anything at the treasure pavilion, senior? Although I'm not skilled in the ways of wealth, I do have some classic texts on the subject. If you're interested, Senior Han, you could take a look. That Miss Z, though her looks are ordinary, her voice is quite pleasant. There's no need to go through all that trouble. I have to leave soon. I'm heading to Linjiang Prefecture shortly. Hanli glanced at the woman. He smiled faintly. Linjiang Prefecture, are you perhaps going for those few pieces of donkey hide gelatin? Another man from Changshan exclaimed in surprise. How did you know? Hanli asked, his expression shifting. Recently, those heading to Linjiang Prefecture are all after those pieces of donkey hide gelatin. Your news must not be the latest, right? The Changshan man replied. I got this information from a source half a year ago, and traveled a long way to get here. I heard these pieces of gelatin are around level 7. They shouldn't be wiped out so quickly by other cultivators. Right. Hanli's expression darkened. He said slowly, that's not the case. In fact, there was a recent ambush battle. Although one piece of gelatin was killed, several other cultivators were also devoured in the process. Even one of the modifiers was seriously injured. The elder Wengson hurriedly explained. The modifier was also hurt. What happened? It was quite unexpected. It was that group of Ajao. Suddenly, a blue Ajao of the 8 extreme type appeared. The modifiers who originally planned to ambush were caught off guard and naturally suffered heavy losses. Later, I heard that several elders from the South Sea Gate teamed up to strike back. They managed to repel the group, but couldn't kill them off easily. These Ajao simply ran to the seaside, squeezed out of the island's main road to hide. They kept attacking isolated modifiers and mortal ships. Once the Yuanying stage modifiers arrived, they immediately dove into the deep sea to use their water shield, and escaped. Recently, it seems to be getting bigger and bigger. It's really quite troublesome. I heard that the South Sea Gate has already invited many high-level modifiers to gather at Kyongyan Island. They are preparing to hold a land exchange conference. After all, a Zhao of level 8 is indeed rare. This time, Elder Wangsun took the lead and mentioned the level 8 Zhao dragon. Han Li gave a nod. The inner color remained unchanged. Han Mi's gaze flickered. A flash crossed my mind about that level 8 poison beauty he killed. Although it's said to be a level 8 beast, as a spirit beast of heaven and earth, the true strength of a level 8 dragon is probably even higher than what the reasons suggest. Plus, being in the sea is like a fish in water. No wonder so many high-level cultivators can't do anything about it. But he didn't come here for any land teaching. After pondering for a moment, he naturally asked, I remember in the Ajao, there seems to be a red living gel. It seems to be the legendary red living gel. Did the purple beast also go to the island, eating fire peppers? Huh? Indeed, there is a red pepper that went to the seaside. Whether it really eats fire peppers is unclear. The man from Changqin seems to know quite a bit about this. He replied without hesitation. That works? Han Li nodded in satisfaction. In the Great Hall, seeing Han Li's expression soften, he felt a slight relief in his heart. At this moment, the old man Wangsun exchanged glances with the other two. Suddenly, he tentatively asked, Senior Han, your cultivation is so astonishing. I wonder where you practiced before. Which major sect were you an elder of? Haha, I come from a very remote place. After glancing at the three, he suddenly smiled. Han Li's gaze seemed to see through everything. The old man Wangsun and the others felt a jolt in their hearts, but upon hearing the answer, they couldn't help but feel delighted. The senior has already studied the closed-door arrival. I wonder what you think of this healing technique. Can it catch the senior's eye? After some doubts, the cautious old man Wangsun asked again, Will I catch the attention of the senior? There are doubts after seeing the doctor. The cautious elder asked again, Just say what you want to say directly. No need to beat around the bush. Do you really want Han to join your sect? Han Li sighed. She said bluntly, Senior, please don't misunderstand. How could I, as a junior, dare to have such aspirations? I just want to ask if you would be willing to be our three sects. Common elder. Hearing Han Li's somewhat displeased tone, the gentle old man was taken aback. He spoke without thinking. Elder catching. Han Li was momentarily stunned, then narrowed her eyes slightly. She naturally knew a bit about elder catching. There are some medium-sized sects that might also be involved. It could happen at some point. These are some of the small and medium sects of the Great Jin. They are unique to these sects. It's these sects that specifically arrange special positions for some high-level loose cultivators. Although it may sound similar to regular elders, in reality, the two are worlds apart. For these small sects, the guest elder is merely a nominal title. They are not bound by the rules of these sects, and do not take orders from anyone in the sect. Their only role is probably that when these small and medium sects encounter trouble, these guest elders can step in to help out a bit. But this help is not mandatory at all. It completely depends on the mood of these guest elders. Of course, as a form of gratitude, these guest elders enjoy treatment in these sects that is no less than that of formal elders. In fact, some may even be treated better than ordinary elders. The reason for this situation is naturally because there are just too many small and medium sects in the Great Jin, while the prominent ones are comparatively few. Not to mention some small sects, even some medium sects, might find themselves in a certain, it's just some mid-tier sects. They might also be involved in some, but there are no vowel modifications within the period gate. In this case, naturally, one can only try to gather some reasons. The scattered cultivators rely on support to ensure the stability of the sect. However, general high-level scattered cultivators disdain truly joining any sect. They feel constrained, but sometimes they are tempted by the benefits offered by certain sects. This is why there are elders like Kekken, something not found in Tianan. Han Li heard about Tiafu sect and cautiously proposed this condition. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, revealing a faint smile. You want me to be the elder in charge of your three families? Do you think I would agree to that? The junior knows that with our small sect, we are simply not qualified to serve a senior of your caliber. But if we just need the senior to take action to resolve the current trouble, we can name you later. We would never dare to trouble the senior again. The warm-hearted laborer was originally anxious, but seeing that Han Li did not seem angry, he felt relieved. He then explained, What you mean is, I just need to take action once, and then Han won't have to worry anymore. Han said with a glimmer of insight, Not bad. What we mean is exactly this. Of course, we, the three factions, won't let our senior do this for free. Since you are interested in the art of uniform techniques, Our Heavenly Father sect is willing to present the Secretary of Wali Fu to you. Jingsha Mountain and Mingyang Valley also each have a unique secret technique that we are willing to let you experience. Additionally, we have prepared tens of thousands of snacks, hoping you can take a few. At this point, the gentle old man straightforwardly laid out all the conditions at once. He was well aware of the games being played, and it might even provoke the other party. It's better to speak frankly. Tens of thousands of snacks. Han Li revealed a faint smile. These snacks are indeed a bit lacking, but our three factions will continue to offer some snacks every year, as a token of our courage. Moreover, our sect is willing to present the birch forest blessing, personally refined by our founding ancestor, to you. Surely, with your senior's abilities, you can refine this item. As the gentle old man gritted his teeth, he laid out the final bottom line. The founding ancestor. Could it be referring to the true man Tianfu? Han Li's expression changed significantly. This is indeed the treasure. I won't hide it from you, senior. Although this spirit talisman once displayed great power in the hands of our sect's founder, unfortunately, none of us younger disciples have been able to refine it. The Walt Spirit Talisman has been passed down in our sect for countless years. We can only watch this treasure with longing. As Spirit Sword Masters, we are helpless. If you, senior, could take it for your own use, it would be a win-win situation. This time, the scholar Yuezhen proactively said, there are such treasures in the cabinet. I, Han, would like to see it for myself. Han Li became interested. Yue, don't be negligent. Bring out the Lin family's item for the senior to take a look. The elder Wen Din saw that Han Li was somewhat moved, and felt overjoyed in his heart. He hurriedly instructed, although he was the highest cultivator in the Tianfu sect, that talisman used by the founder back then could only be controlled by the sect leaders of each generation. That's why he said this. The epic book of the moon was indeed very precious. Immediately, he slapped his palm against the storage belt. A flash of starlight appeared, and a light yellow wooden box appeared in his hand. The epic book was indeed very important. Immediately, she slapped her palm against her storage belt. A flash of starlight appeared, and a light yellow wooden box appeared in her hand. She handed it over to Han Li with both hands. Han Li raised an eyebrow. She didn't hold back. With a casual gesture, she pulled the wooden box into her hands. She lowered her head and took a quick look. The surface of the wooden box was quite unremarkable. The bones were unusually supple. There was even a shiny golden label stuck on the lid. Han Li raised an eyebrow again. With one hand, she pressed on the lid. A flash of insight struck her. The fortune and prosperity silently floated down. The other cultivators nearby, who witnessed this scene, didn't think much of it. The gentle old man, along with 3 elders of the Foundation establishment stage, all simultaneously felt the profoundness of her technique. Lin Li had a skill that prevented captives from being easily removed. This was not something an ordinary cultivator could achieve. Not only did one need to have a strong cultivation base, but also a mastery of the laws that reached an incredibly subtle realm. Such methods were only heard of in rumors. Now, seeing Han Li accomplish it without a sound, they felt even more respect for her. And as soon as the lid was opened, a swirl of greenish light appeared in the air. It was accompanied by a wave of pure wooden spiritual energy that rushed toward them. Han Li felt a sense of agreement with the old man's words about Yuran and Zhao Wangxin. After so many years, this spirit talisman should have lost much of its power, yet it still possesses such might. Indeed, it is no ordinary item. However, what made Han Li even more delighted was that this talisman was actually of the wood attribute. This complements his cultivation technique perfectly. Practicing with it would be much easier. With this thought in mind, Han Li also clearly saw the blessings within the light. A palm-sized talisman, its color a vibrant green. Surrounding it were runes inlaid with gold and silver. Appearing faintly, it looked exceptionally mysterious. But what caught Han Li's attention was a small cluster of light in the center of the talisman, a pale purple dot slowly rotating, flickering constantly. Han Li raised his palm, and his entire hand was suddenly enveloped in a layer of green light. He pointed towards the river, reaching for the talisman. The light flashed, and the talisman trembled. It transformed into a beam of green light, shooting out from the river. The expression of Han Li darkened. He swiftly reached out, and a phantom hand of light appeared, grabbing the talisman into his hand. The others had yet to react in shock. The others hadn't even had time to gasp in surprise. The light hand seal vanished. The spirit talisman was directly absorbed into Han Li's hand. This is the Hua Ling talisman. It really has some tricks to it. I heard that back in the day. The gifted true person was also a yuan. The later stage embellishments of sound. This painting of the spirit talisman must contain the true essence of the gifted true person. it's just too powerful. So, refining it with ordinary embellishments is no easy task. Moreover, even if the refinement is successful, its power will be greatly reduced. You would still need to use your own true essence to practice with it again. This isn't something that can be done in just a few decades. If not handled well, it could easily take over 100 years. Did you forget how it twisted and shook? Like a live fish between your fingers. Hanli chuckled softly. So, what does the senior think of this blessing? Hearing Hanli say this, Elder Wen and the others exchanged glances. Feeling a bit uneasy in their hearts, they asked, however, this is regarding the early stage of the Yuan sound embellishment. I have already indirectly reached the mid-stage. My main cultivation method is also of the wood attribute. Refining this item should be a bit easier. This item is still useful to me. Hanmi, however, said calmly, without showing any emotions. In fact, Hanli still has something to say. This kind of second training for the captured, although it has taken a long time, but after successfully training again, its power will definitely surpass what it was before. So, does that mean you agree? Wen Din joyfully returned to the shop. The others were equally full of hope. Whether you agree or not is secondary. First, tell me the troubles you want me to solve. If it's not too much trouble, I wouldn't mind lending a hand once. Hanli said uncertainly, while her wrist flicked slightly. A burst of spiritual energy wrapped around the talisman and shot into the wooden box. Then she waved her hand and closed the lid again. This is natural. In fact, this matter is just a small task for the senior. This issue is mainly related to a method involving our three families. A few days ago, the elder Wen Din saw Hanli looking thoughtful, as if she was about to agree. He was overjoyed in his heart. He hurriedly began to recount the official matters, explaining everything about Yangzong in detail. Hanli listened quietly. After a quarter of an hour, Hanli transformed into a flash of red and blue and left Baizhu Mountain. Hanli transformed into a streak of blue and red. Leaving Baizhu Mountain, she flew straight northward. A few days later, the news of the sword borrowed from the cultivation in Huayan Prefecture spread, neither too big nor too small. A person claiming to be from Tianfu sect, the embellishment of Han Din by Qing Chong Mao, suddenly arrived at the fan gate of the demon Dao's Danyang sect, with the divine abilities of a mid-stage Yuanying, easily defeated. The only Yuanying elder of the Shaoyang sect, then floated away. The next day, the Lin Feng sect, which had been fully supported by the Shaoyang sect, suddenly changed its approach from the original location near Kaizhong town and hurriedly moved far away to another place. Not only that, other small to medium sects were also shocked to hear this news. After inquiring about the details, they all withdrew their forces from the vast area centered around Kaizhong town, automatically ceding this large region to the Tiafu sect and other three small sects. For a time, the Tiafu sect and Jinzia Mountain and other sects naturally felt proud. The members inside were all delighted. The sect leaders and elders of these few sects felt that their previous offerings were not in vain. With such a mid-stage Yuanying Kachin hanging their name, surely within 100 years, the power of the three sects could rise again. Just then, the first sect of Huayin Prefecture, the Nanhai sect, held a glue application conference. It's finally begun. This conference will last just a few days. In that short time, over 200 cultivators have gathered, and there are already nearly 10 cultivators from the previous period. Then, under the South Sea Gate group, they began to split into teams. They started sweeping the nearby seas, searching everywhere for where Cisterna's poison was hidden. Some low-level demon beasts were occasionally found, and one by one, they were taken down. For a moment, the morale of the humans was high, accompanied by a song of victory. But those few cunning demon beasts, sensing something was off, remained hidden and never showed themselves. This kept the cultivators busy for months, yet they still couldn't find any trace of these demon beauties. Finally, some of the cultivators couldn't hold out any longer, and dispersed on their own. After the national meeting, they continued searching for the demon beasts at sea, but only a little over 100 cultivators remained. Even among the 7 main cultivators, several had left. Only 7 remained, primarily from the South Sea Gate. And in this situation, the manpower for each group naturally began to dwindle significantly. Those few Jiao are ready to take advantage of the situation. They are about to spring into action. Not only have they started to frequently attack isolated embellishments, but that level 8 blue gel also directly attacked the already sparse team of embellishments. Although these teams have reasons for their leadership, that level 8 blue gel is truly formidable. It executes water escape techniques with incredible skill, diving into the depths of the sea immediately after each strike, never lingering to engage further. As a result, not only did it fail to injure the porcelain gel, but it also devoured several of the isolated embellishments. This left the remaining human embellishments feeling increasingly anxious. The situation in the South Sea was becoming increasingly perilous. With no other choice, they could only merge a few groups together before daring to send more personnel out to sea. On this day, another group of stonefish embellishments, led by a nascent soul embellishment, was slowly flying over a section of the sea surface. Each one carefully released their divine stones, searching the area, especially towards the sea surface, which was the main direction these embellishments had scanned with their divine stones. Among this team of embellishments, Hanli had transformed into a pale-faced middle-aged embellishment, calmly flying at the back of the team. Despite his composed appearance, he was feeling quite frustrated inside. When the conference first started, Hanli infiltrated the group under the guise of a mechanic. She blended right in, planning to take advantage of the chaos. But she never expected to come up empty-handed all this time. A few months ago, that would have been fine. No gains would be normal. But ever since a Zhao showed up again, other teams have encountered one or two surprise attacks from a Zhao. Yet the team she joined hasn't faced a single one. This left Hanli utterly speechless. She really couldn't tell if it was good luck or bad luck. Right now, they were searching a vast area of sea west of Pyongyang Island, tens of thousands of miles away. A few days ago, a group of mechanics here was ambushed by that level 8 blue jellyfish. Though she thought this reef was too cunning to linger nearby for them to catch it, the South Sea Gate still sent this team to search the area again, hoping for some unexpected gains. In front of so many people, the Hanli Natural Expo will fully open the divine events to avoid raising suspicions about the reasons for leading the team. Just using divine consciousness to cover the sea surface within a radius of 10 miles. Everything is reflected within it. This range is enough for them to discover the traces of the Ajao in advance, without fearing a sneak attack. More than 10 cultivators are advancing steadily, even though this sea area is vast enough. After half a day, they have completed most of the planned search. But as expected, the group has not made any discoveries. What is that? One of the cultivators flying ahead suddenly exclaimed. Hanli, who was carefully searching the sea surface, raised his hand to look. He saw a large area of gray mist rolling in the distance. The size of it gradually flew this way. Great. There must be high-level demon beasts inside. Don't let it get away. The crowd immediately stirred. One cultivator shouted in surprise. Something's not right. Those Ajao, didn't they usually flee as soon as they saw us? Why are they coming over instead? There's no sign of any tracks. Weren't they the ones who would run away at the sight of us? Yet now they were coming over on their own. There was no trace at all. The anonymous figure obviously appeared quite composed. He hesitated and said, the reason for leading the team, modification, was a middle-aged man dressed in golden clothes. Listening to the two of them, he frowned. His gaze momentarily shifted. He glanced in the other directions. As a result, his expression changed immediately. He hurriedly shouted, be careful. There are also demon beasts flying towards us from other directions. Upon hearing this, the crowd of cultivators became chaotic. They all unleashed their magical treasures. They entered a state of alert. At the same time, they looked around. But in the distance, the sky was clear. There wasn't a trace of any demon beasts. Some cultivators exchanged glances, just as they were surprised and wanted to ask the man. A piercing screech echoed from the sky around them. Then, in the distance, a mass of bones appeared. They were swirling in various colors, faintly revealing the body of a dragon, covered in twisting scales. It quickly closed in on them. But that wasn't the most important part. The important thing was that from the east and west sides, two forces appeared. Waste is even, clearly much larger than the waste in other directions by several times, presenting in blue and red colors, extremely vibrant. How could there be to level 8 demon beasts, so close together, with the divine stone enhancing the surroundings? Instantly sensed the terror of the demon beasts within those two clouds. Someone screamed in panic, pale-faced. The other cultivators also turned pale, in a state of alarm. Obviously, these demon beasts somehow attracted another, level 8 of the same kind. Now they are not satisfied with just sneak attacks one by one. They have turned their attention to launching a counterattack against the entire group of cultivators. The roles of host and guest have been completely reversed. Quickly sent out sound transmission talismans for help to the other groups, and immediately split up to face the enemy. If these demon beasts gather together to cause trouble, their power will only increase. Don't think about fleeing separately. With these demon beasts' water escape techniques, we would only be picked off one by one. The 7 strong men still managed to stay calm. After a loud shout, they commanded loudly. Upon hearing this, The hearts of the 7 cultivators present burned with determination. Suddenly, a tree spirit released a sound transmission talisman for the Shu Road. It flew high into the sky. I'll go deal with one of the level 8 demon beasts. The other one, to agile friends, should go over and hold it for a moment. No need to confront this beast head on. Just delay for a bit. The rest can handle those level 7 demon beasts. The tall man then said to Chen Shang. But this time, everyone gathered to deal with the level 7 demon beasts. Fortunately, most of the cultivators present were solo fighters. Although they weren't a match, they still had some confidence in self-defense. But having 2 of them team up against just one level 8 demon beast, isn't that a joke? Even cultivators as weak as broad beans couldn't hold out long against an level 8 beast. If they can't do it, then let's make it 3. The 7 tall men saw the situation and anxiously added another person. Just as the words fell, a sudden sound of breaking air rang out, and an astonishing scene unfolded before everyone. They saw a seemingly unremarkable cultivator suddenly burst forth with an overwhelming aura, which then transformed into a streak of red and blue light, heading straight towards the fire cloud on one side. Vowel modification, or mid-vowel modification, a chaotic remodification. Everyone is filled with surprise and excitement.